the panel discussions, the panel conversation as well. And then we will have a live Q&A, so we will ask questions and our panelists will be able to answer them, and we'll be able to have reflections and also a call to action. And that's how exactly our session will work. But as we start the session, and as we're having these conversations, please go ahead to introduce yourself, to share where you're coming from and how you are period giving. Before we really dive in, I'd like to share about Giving Tuesday as the movement, which really anchors and supports the period giving collective. So Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is, in case you've never heard of Giving Tuesday is a global movement that unleashes the power of radical generosity around the world. It is really a network that collaborates year-round to inspire generosity with a common mission to build a world where generosity is part of everyday life. And now, the Africa Hub brings together generosity and really incubates generosity at the Africa level in all African countries, because generosity is not something that is new to us as Africans and is really woven into every fabric, every being, every sense of our community, of our culture. So the Africa Hub leverages the Giving Tuesday movement and is a leader network to amplify and celebrate African generosity. So we connect people, communities, and also organizations across the continent to just celebrate this shared culture of giving. Moving on to the Period Giving Collective. What is period giving? In case you are curious and you just came, you just stumbled upon this. Period giving is a growing movement bringing together every single person across the world. If you're an activist, if you're an artist, if you're a teacher, if you're a community leader, if you're a philanthropist, if you're a young person, if you're an old person, if you're a policymaker, if you are a caregiver in any way doing menstrual work, both visible, very loud on the sessions or whatever it may be, or even deep down in the communities, this collective is for you. Because what we are doing is that we are refusing to accept period injustices and even shame as something that is normal. But what we are doing is centering the generosity that happens in this space, because we do a lot of giving. We give of the knowledge that we have. We share stories that are happening in that have been told by our forefathers, our foremothers, and we are sharing them this knowledge. So we want to celebrate that, the giving that happenings of the products, the pads. You're seeing different drives here and there. You're seeing people coming together to just fight this injustice and make sure that girls do not miss school. Girls are able to have a voice in their community without having this as a barrier to their education, a barrier to their voice, or a barrier in any way in their life. So this is what the Period Giving Collective is about. And this time around in this Menstrual Hygiene Awareness Month, we are having a webinar to just talk about these small acts of giving, these small acts of these powerful acts that we are doing in our community, that we keep doing as period givers. And we have amazing speakers across Africa. And I would love to introduce them, but also for them to introduce themselves. But I'll do the honors and they will introduce themselves as we start the conversation. So we'll have a very first speaker, and that is Jedediah. Jedi is and she's commonly known as Jedi. So if you do hear me call her Jedi, she has approved it. I think you see the smile. She is the founder and executive director of Malkia Initiative in Kenya. They are doing amazing work. So it's an organization advancing agency, voice, and choice for adolescent girls and women in rural and pastoralist communities. She is an award-winning thought leader. She's a psychologist and a gender specialist, and she brings over a decade of frontline experience in girls' education, SRHR, and efforts to end harmful practices, including FGM and child marriage. She is a trusted convener and a strategist, and she brings community wisdom with national and global agendas, challenging extractive development models and centering girls and young people as architects of their own teachers. So we do have Jedi here going to have an amazing conversation about period giving, and this welcome welcome Jedi to this call and to this webinar, and we're grateful to have you here. So moving on to the next speaker, and that is Kate Kaimer. Kate is a dear friend of mine, and very happy to have her here as well on this webinar. She is a lawyer and a girls' rights advocate with over a decade of experience advancing gender equality and adolescent girls' leadership across Africa. She holds an LLB from the University of London and completed the Advocates Training Program at the Kenya School of Law. Kate has held leadership positions at Nike Foundation Girl Effect Initiative, at Akili Dada, and currently serves as the Vice President of Global Programs at Girl Rising. She also serves on the boards of Make Every Girl Count and Kuza Dada, and she is a member of the OC Advisory Council. In 2023, she was also recognized by the AU, that's the African Union, as one of the most 25 impactful women leaders. And in 2024, she was also, and she has accumulated a lot more accolades along the way. So we are very grateful to have you, Kate, to be part of this conversation, especially from a perspective that supports girls to Yes, moving on to our next speaker, and thank you for that. Thank you, Rejoice. We have Rejoice from Nigeria. Rejoice is a social entrepreneur and menstrual health advocate. She's very passionate about girls' education and gender equality. And as you can notice, our speakers are very passionate about gender equality and girls' education. So we do have the right people talking about this. Rejoice holds degrees in accounting, in public sector accounting and data science from Country University, UK, alongside level 7 leadership certification from CMI and Jamie International University. She is the founder of Rejoice George Outreach, an NGO empowering girls and women through education, menstrual health advocacy, and socio-economic programs. In 2026, her organization is sponsoring the menstrual hygiene education and retention bill, and she's going to be bringing in and enriching the conversation from that perspective. Rejoice, thank you so much for joining this conversation. And lastly, and a very interesting guest that we are having. I'm very sure that you've been seeing VDJ Moby on your socials everywhere doing something incredible. And we have him as a speaker. So thank you so much for joining this conversation. He's an Abuja best Nigerian DJ and social impact advocate. He uses music as a platform for change. So we have a creative that is very passionate about period giving and is here to contribute to the conversation. He's widely recognized for his successful 74-hour non-stop Mobi's Mixathon Guinness World Record attempt for the longest marathon DJ concert live stream. And he has championed conversations around menstrual health, girl child education, and access to free sanitary pads for undeserved communities. So through his partnership with the Fab Treasure Foundation and other impact-driven initiatives, he continues to use entertainment to drive awareness, break stigma, and inspire action for menstrual justice and youth empowerment. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to have these amazing speakers for this webinar. And yes, we are diving into the conversation. But before we do that, I will do a little introduction of myself. I am Lisa, once again, in case you are just coming in, and I am part of the Period Giving Collective as one of the founding members and a chair of it. I'm very passionate about menstrual justice, but also opportunities that education creates for girls. I do recognize that menstrual injustice is a barrier for girls' education, and that's why I am here speaking, and speaking that giving can be one of the ways that can open doors and can uplift a girl's voice in this space. And now going into our conversation with our amazing speakers. I would like to start with Kate. So Kate, as we shared, she is the vice president of Girl Rising. Girl Rising does amazing work to support grassroots leaders and also really support grassroots leaders, especially girls and also young girls into leadership positions, into leadership, thought leadership, but also programs that are able to support girls to be their very best versions. And Kate, I'd like to ask, starting this conversation, what does meaningful and trust-based support for grassroots girls organization really look like today?
Thank you, Lisa, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this conversation. As Lisa mentioned, my name is Kate. I'm the VP of Global Programs at Girl Rising, which recently merged with She's the Fast. So meaningful and trust-based support for grassroots organization for us looks like a very simple but difficult shift where funders need to recognize that local grassroots organizations who are at the forefront of working with organizations and girls are truly the experts of the work that they're doing. So using not using the landscape that, for example, funders think that they're coming perhaps to solve a problem, but co-creating the solution is what for us meaningful engagement and trust-based philanthropy looks like. I think the other thing that grassroots organizations have constantly been sharing with us is that there's important and urgent need to make sure that there's flexible funding, there's multi-year funding available to be able to address the systemic challenges that hinder girls and women. So making sure that we are not funding perfect projects, but trusting that there's work already happening and putting our investment where we know will make meaningful engagement as well. I think the last thing to just add, I think is really important to make sure, especially for funders, the people who give, is giving credit where it's due. So sharing the spotlight, for example, and giving credit, recognizing organization, opening our networks so that organizations can be able to attract additional funding. One of the things we're excited that we've been able to do as an organization is also listening to girls. Sometimes, especially in the context of the conversation you're having about period poverty or menstrual health and management, is making sure that we are listening to girls and designing programs and solutions that are addressing their problems. One of the things that we were excited to have come up with is our period diaries, which is a physical asset that girls can be able to use to track their menses. Because one of the things girls have often been saying is there are lots of apps, but for girls who are perhaps in rural Kenya, for example, might not have access to those apps or phones. So developing products that are responding to their needs as well is something that we're hearing grassroots organizations sharing as well. Lisa, I had a bit of interference, so I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. I did have an interference as well, but thank you so much for highlighting that. I love the part of funders approaching really people, grassroots leaders, and those doing the actual work at the same level and co-creating with them, and not necessarily coming in as the ones who are the experts, because then it's the grassroots leaders that really understand the context, their people, the girls that they are serving. And yes, so thank you so much for sharing that. But also, in case anyone would like to have access, because it's an open resource, you can please go to the She's the First website and have access to the period diaries. And also Girl Rising, I'm sure, I don't know if the integration has been made yet for people to have access to those materials. But in case you're interested in that, you can sign up and have access to those materials and be able to use them as you are having these conversations with the different girls in your communities, and even the boys as well. So Kate, jumping to the next question, how can funders and global organizations really move away from transactional partnerships, especially with this thought or coming from an angle of we have the money, you're going to implement, so after implementing, bye-bye. How can we move away from that into long-term support and solidarity, and really seeing that this is just not transactional for the moment, but it's a lived relationship that can keep going and really powering this movement? Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I really like that. And I think that's a fundamental question we should be asking ourselves, is how can we move funders from asking the questions of how can organizations deliver for us to what does this organization need to thrive? I think once we change our questions, especially for funders and people in the philanthropy sector, we're able to create more partnership. I think one of the things, especially in this sector, is language. Language also just shows the power structure or the hierarchy that we have between, when you say donor and donee or grantor or grantor, it definitely shows an equal balance sharing. So I think it's also possible making sure we're educating funders as well to be able to explain to them what we need as organizations to thrive. Sometimes money is not enough. We need access to networks, we need resources, we need less burdensome reporting structures, and just, again, the trust that we need to be able to do the work that we're doing. I think the other thing that we also need in terms of making sure that we're moving beyond transactional partnerships to more solidarity is, again, the co-creation, which I've alluded to as well, but also making sure that we are compensating local experts fairly. I think sometimes when I see grant applications and I see the budget amount and the overhead caps as well, it almost makes me wonder, how are people who are doing this work being remunerated for this meaningful work that they're doing? So making sure that we not only compensate locals fairly, but we also be able to make sure that we are creating visibility for them, making sure that there's influence sharing and opening doors as well. I think solidarity really requires us to also recognize that sometimes it's not always leading, it's also creating the space and taking the back step to be able to make sure that the experts who are the locals on the ground who are already working in close proximity to girls are actually the ones who are in those decision-making spaces. So it's definitely a clarion call to people who have access to these spaces, influence, to make sure that you're opening doors, you're making introductions, and you're actively advocating for grassroots organizations in rooms that they do not have access to as well. I think all these can really help us be able to move beyond the transaction partnership. But also for organizations, I think one of the things it's also important for us to remember is, I think there's a challenge in how we work in the sector. And I think, again, this could be caused because of how donors have asked us to relate with one another. Thinking from a scarcity mindset, I think it's also recognizing that the issues that adolescent girls face, especially in terms of even period poverty, for example, require concerted efforts from multi-sector folks. So it's also thinking about, as a grassroots organization, how are you collaborating with another organization? How are you making sure that you are influencing the place that you're working in concurrently and cohesively as well, so that we can have a concerted effort to be able to address these systemic barriers that girls and women face in our communities as well. Lisa? Lisa, can you hear me?
Hi everyone. So I think Lisa has a bit of a network issue. So, but we'll then continue. Thank you, Kate, for answering that. Um, I'm going to jump to Jedi. Um, and I think the very first question we'll ask, based off your work with Malcare, would be that how does menstrual justice, how does this look like in the rural communities? Kate mentioned something about access, and when certain girls do not have access to digital tools, and then that led to the innovation of the diary. But what does it look like from your work for girls without access and in rural communities? What does menstrual justice look like for them? Jadi, are you here?
Yes, I am here. Thank you. Um, I think I should also say that I'm one of the founding members of the Period Collective, just so that those who are here should know that we are a movement and that we are doing this and they should join us. Just to answer your question, one of the things to start off, when we think about rural and pastoralist communities, the reality is a little bit different, and it looks different for different areas. But if I'm to talk about where I work and where Malkia works with the Maasai community, then we must think about access to schools, the distance that they have to walk, because these are school-going girls most of the time, who are now just getting into their periods. So there's a lot of what's the distance to school? How long are the girls taking to cover that? And when they're on their periods, how does that look like for them? We must think of poverty. Poverty is one of the things that the girls, it is like the girls do live maybe way below the dollar. And if a parent has 6 children and 4 of them are girls, and she has to provide everything else, now think of menstrual products, it becomes a challenge in itself. When you think about the harmful practices that the communities do practice, or the Maasai community does practice, so we have FGM, which is the partial or total removal of the female genitalia, or the cutting of the female genitalia. And someone would ask themselves, how does that affect menstruation? But then, depending on which cut you got, menstruation is different for these girls. And those are some of the things that a normal girl, for example, in Nairobi, or a normal girl from a community that does not practice FGM, they would not consider that. So the realities of having periods for a Maasai girl is a little bit different. And then down the line, when she's probably, if she started her menstruation anyway during puberty, then it is considered that the girl is old enough to, now when you get your period, you're considered old enough to get married, and that's when child marriage now kicks in as well. So the realities are very different. You would be so surprised, or someone would be so surprised, that this one thing, periods, is going to change a girl's life upside down, and makes them become women, makes them grow up way be faster than they should. It makes them, it just changed their life's trajectory in total. We also have seen challenges when it comes to the girls' bodily autonomy, the girls understanding their own body, because they are probably the first generation of girls going to school, or family going to school. And if the mother is not at a position to give them safe, comprehensive information about sexual reproductive health, or even just periods, the girls then are lied to and they believe what they believe in, or they then just find their ways. And this we have seen the girls using and doing things that are not safe for them to maintain their periods. But we've also seen them falling prey and getting pregnant because then they're lied to. We have had them being accused of being promiscuous because, for example, when their parents got their first menstruation, they were already married and they know that maybe having sex is the onset of period. So it is how much misinformation is out here. I think those are the realities of menstruation on my end. Anu, or
Thank
is
you. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jedi. Yes, sorry about that. I dropped off a bit. Well, the other problems we face. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing the realities that young girls go through. And definitely these are difficult realities. And I'm wondering, through these realities that are there, and definitely also the work that you're doing, what role do young women and girls play in shaping the solutions for their own communities?
I think I would say it's been a beautiful journey since we started. Malkia was built on, I think, a platform of menstrual hygiene because that was, I think, the first funding-ish we got around menstrual health. And with time, we have grown into understanding what it is. And I think that is what really led me down this road because I started understanding that it is more than a menstrual pad. Just having a pad is not enough. Then we must think of the safety of the girl. We must think of water. We must think of the infrastructure that comes with menstruation. And with this, I have learned this through the girls and through the young people who we have worked with. With time, we have, for example, we have pad banks in certain schools for girls who tell us that it is not sustainable to, or it is not sustainable to not have a constant supply of menstrual products because we live in a panic. Yes, I have what you have given me for this term or for this month, but I don't know about next month. How would that look like? I am living in constant panic. We have also learned something that is a little bit controversial, but then for our realities, we have also learned that reusable products, for example, do not work. And this comes from speaking with the girls and shaping it. We've had girls who react to certain menstrual products, disposables. So with time, we have built pad banks that are for the girls, by the girls. Like they are the ones who are deciding this is what works for us. This product, for example, is what would work for us. When we think about reusables, there are some who get nauseated to touch blood. There's the Maasai community that women are not supposed to touch blood, their own menstrual blood. There's access to water that is like girls would have to walk for 10 kilometers to just fetch water. And will they fetch water for showering or for cooking or for washing the reusable? So sometimes it's us putting all this together. And with time, just collecting the questions that the girls give us, we were also able to build the first card game, which is a mentor guide where we have put together what we have collected, I think, for 8 years, the questions we have put together, and we put it in a fun way so that then the mentors who are going to the field, they can use that to play and to like in a more fun way to tackle the menstruation and period topic. So it is some of the things that we're putting together just to make sure that menstruation is a taboo topic for us, but then it doesn't have to be taboo. But also menstruation can be an entry point to some of the complex SRHR conversations that we must have.
Thank you so much for highlighting that really menstruation can be an entry to the different complexes that girls face, but also for being creative, listening. We came from Kate, who comes from uh, a philanthropy space, who also talked about really looking at the two as equals, but also through your conversation, how are you creating or using a girl-centered model approach design? How are you co-creating with the people that you're serving with, serving in that way, the girls? Are you listening to them? Are you finding the right products that are working for them? Are you, or you're just going? We've bought pads. Pads is what we have, and it's what we're taking to the community, which many people do. And seeing how you're really creating these solutions within their own communities for them to own them and go on to, of course, for them to be as sustainable as they can be. So thank you so much, JD, for the work that you're doing in the communities and how you are period giving in that sense. So moving on to the next period giver, and that is DJ Moby. DJ Moby, we are very excited to have you on this webinar. And also, we know that you recently attempted a Guinness World Record through Moby's Mixathon. In case you are on this call and you had no idea, I do not know where you have been, but it was everywhere. So Moby had an attempt, a very successful attempt, using a 72-hour DJ marathon to raise awareness around menstrual justice and support for girls. Moby, we are very interested to know what made you decide to connect entertainment and endurance with such an important and social cause. Over to you, DJ Moby.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I hope I'm clear because I'm kind of outside. So
Yes, yes, you are.
So the idea for the attempt was as a result of so initially I started during the onset of my DJing career. I had the opportunity of working with Fab Treasure Foundation on a few projects, and it exposed me to the realities on ground. I got period poverty, they affected our society, and it still affects. And how little effort difference, and to play my own part, because I mean, the most important thing is doing my own part. One, if one reach one, we can make a difference, one person at a time. The Guinness World Record attempt was me looking for a larger platform, the top of the mountain where I can, make as much noise so that more people can hear about what is happening and, can join us so that we can find a permanent and a more, a better solution to the problem at hand. So yes, these are the issues. Yeah.
Okay, DJ Moby, I think that your connection is cracking up a bit. I don't know if it's just on my end, but are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you. Can you hear me also?
So yes, we can hear you as well. We just lost a bit of, I think we lost you around working with Fab Treasure Foundation.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just go by it and run it through really fast. So during my early days as a DJ, I had the opportunity of working with Fab Treasure on some projects that she did, and I was exposed to the reality of period poverty. And I thought it because I mean I have sisters, I have relatives that are female, and I could see what that could cost them and the society, at large. And I had to think within myself to find a way to exponentially reach out to more people and tell them about what is going on and provide like a viable solution, so that we can come together and provide a viable solution. So the attempt, or the Guinness World Record attempt, was me creating a platform or a way to reach out to more people so that they can and create more awareness about what is on ground. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Moby. Great. Moby? Moby, are you able to get me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm
great.
with you.
All right. Thank you. The connection is a bit cracky here and there, but at least we've been able to get
Yeah, sorry about
the
that.
inspiration. That's okay. The inspiration to why you've experienced that firsthand. You've been able to also highlight how you have siblings who are sisters, who are girls, and you've been able to see firsthand what period poverty does to girls and how it strips their dignity away. So getting into just really getting to understand something, especially the fact that you are an entertainer. A lot of people see DJs simply as entertainers, but of course you have used your platform to spark conversations around menstrual dignity and the girl child. What role as a creative do you think other creatives and entertainers can play in shifting culture and also breaking stigma around periods? Over to you.
The reach that the entertainment has is very vast. From experience, I know that entertainment plays a big role in culture. And using entertainment as a platform to educate and enlighten has been one of my it has been my cardinal points, being able not only to play music, but also to make impact, and are you there? Can you hear me? Yeah, and using entertainment as a platform to make impact has always been my cardinal, So I thought about what other ways can I affect, my generation through music, and this opportunity presents itself, and I had to jump on it. I think,
I think we've lost you a bit. We've lost your voice. Yes, we've lost your voice a bit. I don't know. Okay, we can't hear you, but thank you so much for sharing that, DJ Moby, especially saying the reach that entertainers have, using that as a platform really to amplify, because we do recognize that music, the entertainment sector really is really influential in different ways and can be used to make impacts as well. So talking about entertainment, I want to transition to Kate. Kate would like to know, since we're coming from a creative perspective, how can storytelling help shift power and strengthen movements for menstrual justice and girls' rights?
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. I think one of the things, especially in the context of this conversation, is first of all, as Jadida mentioned, and DJ as well, I think there's a lot of stigma around periods, and I think this is cultural sometimes as well. There are a lot of things that girls are told. You're dirty or you're unclean, or there are a lot of norms and stereotypes and taboos that girls and people who are menstruating have had. So I think storytelling is really important to be able to counter some of those socializations that we've gone through. And this is a really important conversation to have, especially with girls, to normalize that this is a natural process that women and people who menstruate go through. So making sure that we move away from the stigma and shame and share how powerful this is. And that's what the power of storytelling is. One of the things that Shiza first came up with is a period zine as well. And I've dropped links to both the period diary and the period zine as well, because one of the things we were just contending with is there are very few stories, powerful stories of girls who are talking about their own menstrual journey and how they're navigating that as well. So I think the power, this place of storytelling is to be able to counter some of those backward and archaic stories we've had about our periods as well. So I'll invite all of us, especially today, to have healthy conversations and open those conversations to normalize them in the home as well, just to make sure that there's that change in how we talk about our periods as well. And I think storytelling is not just a communication tool, it's truly a power shifting act. Girls being able to tell their own story and reclaiming something that society has told her to be ashamed of is something that we really need. And storytelling can really help us not only change that mentality, but also reach policymakers, teachers, and funders in ways that feel more possible as well. This is truly the theory of change behind Girl Rising, changing narratives. We do think precedes policy shifts, and that's why it's really important for us to create spaces, because these are conversations we know are already happening, but how can we normalize them and speak truth to power and make them healthy and exciting for girls to be able to ask questions as well. So storytelling has a really important space, especially as you talk about periods, and to Jedida's earlier point as well, to also invite our participants and our stakeholders to share when a product is not right for them as well. I think one of the things that we try and advocate for an organization as well is not to push a product to girls, is actually showing them the whole array of products, so that then if they're faced with one, they can use them, but for them to ultimately decide that as well. And hearing those stories for girls, that a Ruby cup is uncomfortable, or it's bulky, or it's scary to put versus a tampon, that also is important for girls to experience and for them to make their own. And that's what agency is about.
And yes, Kate, I totally agree with that. One of the things as we're moving into this space, especially the fact that particular organizations front particular products, most times does not give girls the choice, and yet choice is very important, and it aids agency in that way, but also body autonomy in a way that, you know, I'm choosing a product for myself that I am comfortable using, not necessarily what's only available. But we also do recognize that there are other materials and things that are used that are unhygienic and not humane, I would say, that girls end up using in that way. So thank you so much for highlighting that. And lastly, I would like to ask, at a time that we know that funding is shifting and shrinking, and so much is happening, funding cuts here and there's a lot happening really in the philanthropic world. But at a time that we have this shrinking funding for gender justice work, what really gives you hope? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really important question. And I think all of us are feeling it in the sector that the work still needs to happen. Resources are every day shrinking, but we have to make sure that the gains we've made for girls and women are not radically clawed back because of the political, environmental challenges that we're facing. I think what gives me hope is every person who's on this call, obviously they are passionate about period poverty and how to be able to address that. I think there's a lot of work that is happening that is often unseen, and that gives me hope that regardless of whether money is, I think especially young feminists in Africa, they're doing the work. They're doing the work whether funding is there or not. Not that that should be the case, but that gives me hope that the work is obviously still continuing as well. I think what gives me hope as well is girls. Girls are speaking up, girls are confident, girls are sharing, this strategy is not working, girls are demanding to be involved in processes as well, and that gives me hope. But over and above, on a more practical level as well, I think what's giving me hope is just the shift I'm also seeing within how organizations collaborate as well. I suspect the future of funding will be collaborative through consortiums, etc. And I'm starting to see in certain regions in the world, organizations coming together and say, how can we meaningfully collaborate? And I think that for us is truly also the story between Girl Rising and She's a Past coming together in a very radical way, saying that the challenges that girls and women are facing in the global south are not changing, but how can we radically change as well and collaborate to be able to make sure that the agenda stays in the forefront. So all these culminations of the girls, the people who are continuing doing this work as well, and all the actors, I think gives me hope knowing that while there might be challenges as well, I think there is also a solution that we can be able to drive, and making sure that despite the challenges that we don't stop drumming the drumbeat, to continue raising the issues about girls, around women, and especially the importance of, especially at a policy level, and holding all these people accountable to make sure that period poverty is not a challenge that hinders girls and women from showing up in the ways that they deserve to show up in the world as well.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for highlighting that. Now, talking about hope, I would like to just quickly throw the mic to Rejoice. Rejoice has been pushing for a menstrual hygiene bill. And Nigeria recently adopted its first national policy on menstrual health and management, which many advocates describe as a landmark step forward. So Rejoice, from your perspective, why does policy matter so much in the fight for menstrual justice, especially for girls in underserved communities?
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here.
Rejoice?
Yeah, thank you. So like we all know, policies are government decisions and laws, and they it matters a lot because for the fight that we are in, which is the menstrual justice, and then it turns what happens to just be a noble cause or a noble cause that is consistent into a national commitment. So in my time, I'm having gone through secondary schools, had conversations with series of teenage girls because my foundation has reached over 10,000 girls across different secondary schools in the last 5 years. And from conversations, even with the management of the school, we've come to realize that the charity organizations alone cannot handle this because we are constrained, just like you talked about funds shrinking. And then, because organizations have to prepare very well, we have to plan, gather funds, just like you said, also look for who to collaborate. That's if what you have, it's not enough for you to go out there and actually just make great impact. So policies are really important as it helps keep institutions, it helps keeps the school accountable for this menstrual justice that we are all seeking for. And another important thing here is implementation. Just adopting these policies without implementation is it can't move anything. So we're coming at it with full force, hoping that these bills, these policies that we are talking about, we're advocating for, that they are implementing. Honestly, I'm very happy about the recent adoption, really, because it's a step forward. It tells us that, okay, our pleas, our cries, everything that we have been talking about, we have been clamoring for, the government is really hearing us, the government is saying. So we are also trying to see how to move beyond just adopting this implementation. Again, beyond these policies, like I said, charity organizations alone cannot they cannot um they cannot reach out to everybody. We are constrained to just a particular group of people, just to the people who are around us. As much as we have a lot of people, and I'm really excited for every time I see an advert, for every time I see an organization that is out there preaching menstrual hygiene management, I'm really excited. I'm really, really happy about it because honestly, a tree cannot make a forest. So these policies keeps the government accountable, when I proposed the Onelga Menstrual Hygiene Management and Education Retention Bill to the legislative leader of my assembly, it was something that he bought because he is a girl child advocate also. And we had to run with it because if the government is obligated to producing this pad, giving these sanitary pads to these girls every month, and then education, they have committees set up, to preach this menstrual hygiene management to the school. It's not going to be strange when organizations come to them to talk to them. And also, the school have people who are permanently put in position, who are taking responsibility for the students when they're on their period, ensure there is clean water, to ensure that there is a clean space for them to change their pads, ensure that there is sanitary material in the school present for them when their period comes unannounced. So these policies has a way of guiding and helping the girls.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. And because our webinar theme is the power of small acts, Rejoice, I'm very interested to know in your own journey as an advocate, and of course now involving government and of course pushing for a policy, what are some of the small but intentional acts from the community, young people, parents, allies that you've seen create meaningful change for girls and women? And you can just really share this experience in a minute or two. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So one of the things that has stayed with me is a time we visited a school, and the principal ensured that even the boys sat down in the class. Only that act alone encouraged the girls to know that if our principal, who is a man, can also make the boys sit down and have this conversation, then it is something that we shouldn't be ashamed of. So just that act alone, it built a level of confidence in their heart. And there are people who have just seen our works on social media and have called to just donate, even the smallest amount. This is good. We are happy that people are coming out to talk about this period, are coming to teach our girls, train our girls. We cannot come out to do it. We do not have the time to do, or we don't even know what to talk about. We don't know how to talk about this. So this small act alone has helped, it has helped to nurture the movement. And for me personally, one act of giving that I think belted this passion for period giving is always pad. I think in my JS1, they visited our school, gave us sanitary pads, and then gave us pamphlets that prepared me for the journey. And then my twin sister has a period in our JS2, only for mine to come like 3 years later in our SS2. So you see the gap. Now, as it has come, I was prepared already. My heart was, in fact, I was eager, waiting for this day. So this little act of giving, it's built a level of excitement and confidence in our hearts. And that is why we have come all out to ensure that everyone who is advocating, we are supporting by liking, by sharing, by supporting with our presence, however it is done, and also partnership. We cannot undermine the power of partnership in period giving. Like the popular saying, little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. So once everybody is giving in their voices, community leaders are involved. I've been really deep into community thing. Like I said, one of the things that I contested to be a beauty queen in my clan, and this is because I wanted a platform that would give me room to go deep into the communities. So that alone, I had support from different institutions in the clan. So taking this to them, the first thing you hear is, thank you. This is something these are people we can reach out to. Your organization can reach out to them. So just that encouragement alone, it's a lot So it goes beyond finances. Sometimes some people don't give you money, but you know the encouragement that, yeah, you are doing well. And then some parents see you on the road and like, thank you so much. My child came home with sanitary pads. Thank you. We couldn't afford this, but you have done this. And you know, some parents have taken it upon themselves because this person has introduced my child to sanitary materials. I need to keep up. I need to buy because we now understand the health benefits of using these safe products during their periods. So every little act is really important and it counts.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and even highlighting those really small and intentional, just like giving support, being there. And especially the fact that it was built on the generosity of, like you shared, always coming into your school and just giving you people products and sharing this pamphlet and all that to just get you started. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I just have one question for each of the panelists as we close. As you see, time is really fast spent. And the one question that I have for all the panelists, and I think we could just use a minute each, and then we will have a Slido question where everyone can really take a moment and share how they're period giving or one thing that they're doing. So to Kate, to Jedi, to Rejoice, and to DJ Moby, what is the one practical period giving act that you think would challenge every person on this call to do this month? I know the month is ending in in just a day or two, but this month and the next, what would you challenge every person on this call to do? Thank you. I'll start with Kate.
Yeah, have conversations about periods. If you're in places of influence in an office manager, for example, if possible, allow your staff who might need to take a day off when they're on their menses as well. But I think one practical action is just have conversations. Be curious, be open, whether it's the products we've talked about, if you've never seen them, explore them, have conversations.
Okay, so Kate is saying conversations. Over to you, Jedi. What's that one period giving act?
I'd say listen. Listen to the girls, listen to the people who menstruate, listen to what the government is saying and how can we organize around that. But over and above, I think just to add on what Kate is saying, I think the conversations must continue. I have been thrown for stones for saying that we need to continue the menstruation conversation beyond May 28th because I have seen that everything goes after May and then we pick it up again next year in May. So I think having the conversation around menstruation and period giving all year through, I think for me would be very powerful. So let's continue listening and having conversations.
Great. So we have Kate saying, let's have conversation, and Jenny saying, listen. DJ Moby, what is that one period giving act?
The one thing I would say for certain is we need to play our parts. You don't need to wait until it's a concerted effort. You as an individual, you can make a difference. One person at a time, we can make the change that we can make the world become what we hope it should be, or what it should actually be like. A world where, there's more awareness about period poverty, a world where girls can have access to free menstrual pad instead of, condoms are, which is being circulated free. A world
Okay, I think we've lost you again with the audio. DJ Moby, we've lost you again with the audio. But your one period giving act is yourself. What are you doing? How are you showing up as yourself, as you the person? What are you able to do? So moving on to Rejoice. Rejoice, what is that one period giving act?
I would say we'll continue to advocate for the price of sanitary pads to reduce really, and however way you can to gift somebody sanitary pads, encourage people to gift somebody, whoever, a way to say I love you. Just give somebody pad, because from experience of sharing, every time there is a sanitary pad on ground, there's this joy in the heart of young girls, even young adults and women. And you see there are women who clamor, oh, give me for my daughter, for my sister, for my friend, and also let's just continue. We can't stop. We do not stop because we are tired. We stop because we are done. And this journey is not one that we're going to be done in a very long time. So we just need to
Yeah.
continue.
Yes. Thank you so much. We have gotten all, we've been challenged, and I hope you've picked up something that you're going to do the few days as the month closes, but also the next months that are coming in. So thank you so much, our wonderful speakers. It's been a wonderful conversation of the work that you're doing and what you think also other period givers should be doing as well. So in the chat, there is a link that one of my colleagues is going to share, and we want you to share with us just one word. Share with us one word that comes to your mind when you think of period justice or menstrual justice. And then what is your role in building it? So let's just take a minute to add that. Let's take a minute to add that. Please add that. I hope you've been able to see the link. In the chat. So please use the link to feel that. Okay, we're seeing access to seeing
Right, everyone. I think we have a bit of a network issue, but thank you for keeping the words coming. I'll just display what we currently have from us, and then we'll take one more and we can then. So, yeah. So, yes, and we can see all of the words that we have put up here: access, dignity, impact, tax-free, humanity, menstrual. So everything that we see here is what we think about when we think about menstrual justice. Thank you everyone for participating. I'm going to hand over to Mali. I don't know if Liza is back on the call, but I'm going to hand over to Mali so that she can wrap up the session.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for just coming through to share the knowledge that you have with everyone. And would have wanted the conversations to continue, but for time is not on our side. And from with that being said, we're just going to say good afternoon, good night, good morning from wherever you're listening from until we meet again. It's on our end. It's good night, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you very much for agreeing to be part of the panelists and to just share the information that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of this.